Hey
Hey
Joanna,
there.
how are you?
I am good. Here we come back to the unicorn and a fairy. We're the magical rebels that giving you your cosmic a download for this week. How about that?
Yes, as my phone decides to do its thing, I sent it to voicemail. Sorry about that. Yes, so what is our topic of conversation today?
Okay. Our topic is, and this might set some people off, who's right, who's wrong. And how about let's lead with love? Because I know we both have I know I have done that. I'm not gonna say you've done that. I've done it. I've not led with love sometimes, or I've felt like I'm right all the time.
Hmm. Hmm.
Hmm.
Yes, and there's two ways of looking at that. Well, first of
Right.
all, um, we should introduce ourselves.
Yeah, well,
I'm the cheeky fairy with the breeze.
yeah, and I've got the sparkles all over me, right?
You
I'm the
do.
unicorn.
Mhm. So I think this is a very common subject about what's right, what's wrong, who's right, who's wrong, and it does bring up some interesting. You bring up some interesting points about leading with the feeling of love, or at least framing it that way, which is kind of the same thing. Interesting that today we've got the moon in Libra, right? It's moving out of
Right,
Libra, going into Scorpio tomorrow, but
right.
and the medicine for communications, Mercury, is healing with Chiron. So there's this harmonizing feeling about putting right any kind of awkward tensions, any sort of difficult things. And that led me to thinking about, ooh, having an awkward conversation. How many people avoid it? Avoid it because of something that hasn't actually happened, a situation that hasn't actually happened. Um, I think this is
Well,
common for every family, every group discussion, every dinner table chit chat. And let's not get started when
uh,
people start applying alcohol.
then there's no filter, and then you're
Now, that's when I think people really are having
well,
awkward conversations, when they are a
well,
little bit looser.
well. Then all of a sudden, the truth serum, whatever you want to call it, and all of a sudden, everybody's like, "What just happened?"
No, I think,
But the feelings that you really have most of the time come out. Whether you believe it's
well,
right or kind of. Okay. So no, I'm pretty sure it's what you're feeling in there. Now, whether you say them in the right way or the wrong way,
hmm, yes,
yeah.
because there's that
Could it
point
have been
that,
done in a different way? Yes, of course.
well, oftentimes it's not exactly what you say, it's how you frame it, how you
Right.
say it. Um, and really the general energy around what's being said. There's also that tricky little thing that what you might say, somebody hears something else.
Or I had that happen yesterday.
Okay.
And I took it and I thought, wow. And I always the word fear comes up. And I'm sure it had nothing to do with me. But of course, I thought this has everything to do. Oh my gosh, why is this being said to me? This is going so great. Why is this being said? I can't believe this is happening to, and I'm not going to get into my personal business. Someday I will. Of course, we talk about everything here, but it was false evidence appearing real.
So
And
did any part of that come from a place of fear or
of
from a place
course,
of what's the other part? We're trying to defend our corner. It's fear is one. The other one, what would it be? The other one, what would fear, I guess, would be it,
well,
right?
I think because the feeling was so familiar and I didn't want to
Ah,
be, yeah, I didn't want to be in that place again. And it wasn't because of the person, it was because of my own insecurities. So I
you
heard
went
it
into
and
fear.
yeah, I went into fear and I thought, oh no, my whole body was like, oh no, we know this feeling. We know exactly what this is. And it, I'm 99.9% sure it had nothing to do with me. But my body said, hey, Hey, let's just dump all this stuff in here. And of course it does.
How would you then, I mean, I'm just curious because I stay in curiosity. If
I
you've
do
got to
too.
have an awkward conversation with somebody, right? Something happens, got said, or I don't know, you're in a position of leadership and you've got to let somebody go or reprimand somebody. What do you do? How do you frame it?
If I'm in a position of leadership and I have to let somebody go,
Maybe that
I
was a
there
wrong
no that
example because
yeah,
I
it
can
is a
already
wrong
tell, well, I don't know. I don't
yeah,
know.
'cause that's a very wrong example because I've had to do that. And I thank you. No, thank you for being in our staff. And there's your box. I'll help you load it to your car.
Oh, oh.
I've done that before because it's there. And working for me was probably one of the easiest things people have ever done. But when you cross that line, you've crossed the line. Now it's just, you're going to see the side of Sagittarius or the side of kindness that, because I will give you and give you and give you and give you and give you probably way too much. I'll probably do your job for you. And then once you cross the line or you go after somebody, some other person, or you've done something that I just can't.
Okay, so your awkward conversation in this frame is already like you've got history and you've got receipts and you've
Oh
got
yeah.
hit.
I've got,
So
yeah,
that's already a done deal.
yeah.
I think in
So
that situation, people really know when an awkward conversation is coming up that what the conversation is going to be about. I'm talking about the conversations where, like, who's right and who's wrong when it comes to, in our landscape out there in the field. And I don't think it matters whether you're in Australia, America,
no,
where there are these, whether you want to pretty up and call it a town hall meeting or whether you want to call it a table discussion, there are invariably discussions that happen that can sometimes get heated. And it's really interesting. Do we listen first and then process what we're listening to? Because I always have found lately when I've stepped back and framed it, like you said, in love or in kindness, there's always a subtext that's underneath it, which is where my curiosity comes from. And I'm usually, I can't use that word right in this, but I'm usually perhaps correct and I can get to the truth if I
mm-hmm.
look at it in a way of what is the intention of having this conversation? What is your intention to the other person? What is it that you want from me? Is there something that I'm missing that I'm not understanding? This is where I think it starts to soften. And
Well,
I
sometimes asking somebody that will set them off,
like asking them what their intention is with the conversation.
right? Healed
Set them
enough,
off
like,
or throw them off.
well, either or, because if they're not healed enough from, say, something in their past, like if you were to ask somebody, like I'm at the point where you can ask me anything and I will answer you truthfully. I would have answered that. But if I went back and said to somebody, what was your intention on asking me that or telling me that? I'm not sure I would have gotten a very nice response.
Well, no, yes, okay. Yeah, that's a good
Maybe
point.
I'm misunderstanding what you're
I'm
saying.
looking at it like when somebody asks you a direct question or an awkward question or something comes up, I might want to know what is the intention with that then? Because, some people will say, well, he said, she said. I'm not sure I get
Right.
to those conversations because whoever they're talking about isn't there to defend their position. But when we're talking,
Plus there's a million sides to every story. So yeah. Yeah.
well, then that's an answer. There's a million
Right.
sides to the story. And, we all know that there is my truth, your truth, and then the truth somewhere in there.
Right.
I'm like, this is what's so curious about this conversation is what is right and what is wrong in things like you could look up the word integrity. Now, I've learned that without it, nothing really works. But then somebody else's version of integrity is different to mine. The same with respect. What is respect? What is showing respect? I mean, that's another loaded question on people's mind. When is somebody disrespectful and when is somebody respectful? And does it change depending on who you're with, who you're talking to? This is such an
Well, and
interesting.
it is such and I love it because I feel like I am trying the older I get, like everybody's point of view is right because we all come from such different perspectives and perceptions. Who am I to tell anyone that what they think or what they, as long as you're not out to like really hurt someone, that is when I think,
Well, that's
I
wrong.
mean, that's wrong.
Yeah. If
But
there is an
like,
intention to maim another person,
right.
blame another person, that's not right.
But,
But
but,
then somebody else might say that is right.
well, I mean, I've heard people say I mean, across the board, there is no right or wrong. But I think when you're out, gonna hurt, like really hurt people, like, but again, who am I to say? Who am I to say?
Would you say that there is a division when it comes to things like victimization? Let's see, people who can't defend themselves, people who, I'm trying to think of examples of when this happens, where, it's clear there's some folks out there that are manipulative
Of
and
course. I
they'll
mean,
have conversations to manipulate what they want from a person. This is where I come up with, I want to frame it in what is the intention behind this conversation, or what is the intention behind right or wrong, or why are you trying to make me wrong or the other person wrong? When there's like the whole thing, agree to disagree. Sometimes
right.
that's okay. Sometimes that irks me. Okay, no, can I defend I want to defend my position.
Oh, and I think it's brilliant if people do defend their position. I do like hearing things like that, but I think too, sometimes when people go overboard to defend, they're hurt people.
Oh,
Or they come at you with such like fervor. I mean, they're hurt.
so you're saying the intention behind it is something they may not even be aware of.
Right, right.
Well, in that situation, what do you do? When you recognize it and you can clearly see the other person doesn't recognize it, what do you do?
Because I was that person for some things. I mean, I can tell you that I was that person. I have been angry for things that I may not or may not should or should not have been. And now I just look at it and go, let me sit back for a minute and let's just let the fire just sort of, and hear them out because they need to be heard. This person needs to be heard. This person needs to be seen.
Well, I don't think any constructive conversation can be had when there is elevated emotion like anger or
Yeah.
someone's just, woof.
And to get that person to that point, they are absolutely not being heard or seen at any level.
But there are also folks who come at things like that. They
Well,
have
that's what I'm saying.
everything
They're
like that.
right.
But then again, it's like, is this a passionate thing they're really passionate about? They've got to get this out, or are they wrong for just attacking the situation?
Yeah. You don't know.
Correct. This is so fascinating, only because I think our laws, particularly in the Western part of the world, are being challenged. People are challenging what is the rule of law and what isn't the rule of law and who gets to make that decision.
I think that people are going to be making that decision pretty soon.
Well, that's what you and I believe. There's
Yeah.
freedom in being able to speak your mind. But if you're in a place in the world where that's not available to you, are you just shuffling along with the way things have always been again because there's fear for speaking out? I mean,
Uh,
gosh, it
I,
wasn't so
yeah.
long ago that women couldn't have the vote, and then anyone of color wasn't allowed to vote. And then people of color couldn't marry or have relationships outside their race. I mean, these are things that now we sit here, that to us right now, wrong, foreign, different, like not anything I can comprehend.
Well,
Someone like
there's still,
myself could not walk around with this on where it displays.
I was just going to say, there's still people in fear for, living the way they live.
Yeah, Yes, I think so. This is where the voice of truth comes. The voice of truth, the voice of reason. Like we push open so many doors. You with your
And
bright
and
pink
I've
hair
got
because you love it.
yeah, I love it. And I've gone after things because I've been passionate about them, and I've been by myself doing it
You've been
because
party of one.
party of one,
Yeah. Yeah.
Joanna, party of one here, yes, and it was okay. It really wasn't okay, but as I've gotten older, it was something I had to do, and it's something I would do again if need be.
This is just
Yeah,
so fascinating.
because if it means protecting even one person, yes, Joanna, party of one, here I am.
Protecting one person or standing up for the person.
Either or.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Is it the same thing or is it different? I mean, for me, it's the same thing.
Well, some of us sit back and say nothing, which then goes up to the conversation. Are we complicit with the problem if we're not standing up and voicing an opinion, or standing up and voicing an opinion, right or wrong? I think it's that lovely quote that says, well behaved, I think it's well behaved women didn't get too far in history. I think it was framed around misogyny. But it's the same thing, standing up for our rights goes to, well, who's wrong in this? So
I don't,
fascinating.
I don't think it,
I
yeah,
rather than taking a position, it is almost like looking at the gallery to see how do we move forward from this? How do we get this inclusion? Like it wasn't so long ago that we were making huge strides in global culture where folks were saying, yeah, no, this is wrong. This is not right. People shouldn't be doing this. And I'm wondering if we're not moving back into more of that. Every time there's a time in history of turmoil, there's usually a level of peace that follows it.
uh, but there's no going back. We're just going forward. You're correct.
Well, is it going
I
back or
think
is it cycle? Does it
uh,
cycle? I do think I think there's a cycle
I
to it.
I think there is a cycle, but we've never seen anything like what we're seeing right now. We've never
Oh,
seen this.
no, not when you look at an our side where you see planets, all the outer planet
No,
changing signs and be like, well, unless I paid attention to it, I think this happened all the time. But no, it doesn't. It truly
no,
does.
and I think what people, for me, and I think we're just seeing we have to keep moving forward. There is no turning back at this point.
Right.
There's no turning back.
So
I
we're
mean,
not
we're on
going off
a,
track.
yeah,
Do you think it's possible
yeah,
for people to um, have an opinion about one thing and then change their mind?
of course. And that's okay. That's absolutely okay.
And then people who have an opinion want to change their mind, but have fear of changing their mind because of the way it might look.
And that's okay too.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that because it, until you're ready to step into that, that's okay.
Yes, it is. This is just fascinating. What's right,
Mhm.
what's wrong, and who decides? Who does decide?
You decide for yourself.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't
I'm
know
not,
if anybody else could make that decision for me. I've
no,
definitely spent my life being swayed in certain directions, but I seem to always come right back to middle ground.
right.
Yeah. Um,
I mean, and for me, it's I've learned I'm a sovereign being, and that sovereign being is love, and that's all there is.
so those who are tuning in that may want clarification on what you believe a sovereign being is.
A sovereign being is I am
For you, what
built.
is it to you?
Oh,
What is a sovereign being?
a sovereign being to me is I am filled with the universe, spirit. I am divine love. I am me. I get to make decisions for myself.
So that's
I
what
don't,
sovereignty
yeah,
is for you.
right.
Sovereignty is you are your own person, making your own decisions, living your own life in your own bubble.
Well, not in my own bubble. I have other people around me, but I do, um, I have spirit within me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. What do we send our viewers home with?
Uh, Stop. If you are wanting to get in one of these conversations, thinking about getting into one of these conversations, confronted with one of these conversations, stop.
Oh.
Take a minute, get into your heart space, take a couple deep breaths, because it just takes a minute until you go, oh my gosh, what did I just do? I didn't mean to say that. I didn't want to say that. I didn't want to get into a place of that, even in body language, anything. Get into your heart space. Take a couple breaths. Take a moment. And lead with love. That's what I think everyone
That's
should be
very
doing.
grounded. I think that's very grounded. I think for me, it is give me a minute if I have to make a decision on a dime. Like if I have to turn around and make a choice, give me a minute. I need a minute to process this. Then I'm asking myself, where is my response coming from? Is it coming from a place of fear? Is it coming from a place of love and understanding? I want to ask myself that, particularly if I'm caught off, side, or if I'm sidelined, what do they call it?
Sidelined. Uh-huh.
Yes, if I get
I
sidelined,
think,
not
yeah. If you
sure.
get side.
And, it goes back to reaction or respond.
Mm-hmm.
Before I respond, I need a minute to just ground myself a little bit, see where, then I want to ask myself, not the other person, where is this coming from? What's the intention? What do I want to get from it? And I might lead my response with, this is my intention to give you an adequate response or to defend my position, but it is not my intention to offend or to force
And
somebody else to be on the defensive.
I learned from somebody who I think is a very smart person. You can also repeat what you think you're hearing the person say.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
Okay. And they're going to think, they know I think they're brilliant. This is what I hear you saying. Could you tell me if I'm correct in saying that?
It goes back to my training.
Yeah.
Training. It says that we can't hear what you're saying because who you're being is too loud.
I love that.
Yeah. True. Yeah.
Some years ago that would be like, but now it would be like, wait a minute, I got to take a minute to just chill out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, as usual, this has been insightful, delightful, and all things. And if you're on this podcast and you are with us, we're I got an itch. We're glad that you're here, happy that you're here, and we want to grow. We want to grow this community. We want to, for no other reason than to create a conversation about things that might bother you, things that might have you in a froth, or things you might want to discuss. All right, Joanna, it's bye from me.
Let us know. Bye from me.
All right,
we love you guys. We see you. We hear you.
Lots of love. Bye.